What is up, DTube Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit about reducing energy spend and why I think this topic is quite fascinating. So reducing energy spend is something that we do. We're always trying to see how we can spend less energy, save time and energy basically. This is very interesting when we look at the internet itself, because it is an energy saving mechanism. But reducing energy to spend to get kind of the same outcome, that's something that's going to keep happening. So for example, this is very interesting when we look at the internet. So now we have a lot of apps, a lot of websites, a lot of services. This obviously is not that efficient, because we probably can do the same amount of stuff using our voice, or maybe we don't have to do some video or do some photos, or even though this is quite energy efficient, but maybe there are other ways where we can reduce the energy spent. So for example, when I do this video, I go and render it, I have to upload it. There's a lot of data that needs to be moved around. But if you really consider it, how you can make it more efficient is you have all the data that you were going to talk about. You have it in text. And then some AI has a template of a cartoon version of you. Then you basically found a way, an even more efficient way of doing the same task. And this is, I think, eventually going to make people way more energy conscious, where they're gonna realize that there's not really that need to dissipate so much energy as the way humans dissipate energy right now. And it's eventually gonna lead humans to look at, we can do super many websites, niches, brands, but maybe it's going to go in the other direction. So people are just going to circulate around the best. And this is something I talked a little bit about, that the phone is becoming virtual reality, and it's getting better all the time. And what happens when you get more, I think, energy consciousness is that people eventually really are going to look at what it is they're trying to achieve. Because really, when you really take a look at a lot of things humans are doing, there's no clear goal. There's no clear, I'm gonna work on becoming more competent. It's not really that much of that is being put into thought, I think. So humans eventually going to have to dive deeper into themselves to see what kind of vision do they want to sort of move towards. Because the problems with goals is we can only just set a little bit more of what we already do know, but the vision is more broad, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing with humans that's going to be really amusing. That is when they're going to realize. So right now humans think thought is magical, but when you realize the limits of it, I think that's going to frustrate a lot of people, where they're going to go from a state from thought they knew anything to, oh, wait a sec, we don't know really a thing. And that's something I also been covered a little bit in the past. And when you really see it from that perspective, that a human doesn't really know anything, then it's quite easy to see that an AI is going to write blogs, it's going to do videos, it's going to do music so much better than a human being. We see this in sports, we see this in a bunch of niches right now, where the AI comes in and it just does it so much better than human. And then you really have to consider, wait a sec, if a machine can do it so much better than us, that must mean we are really basic. We're not basic as a life form, but or well, you can say that also, the two cells came together, and that's quite basic. But in terms of doing something consciously, obviously we're quite evolved. So a lot of things are going to be stopped, worked on, and this is something that we see in this niche of people starting projects in the crypto niche. We see how much have failed, or how much is just like people stop working on it. We see, for example, how fragile many ideas are, how fragile many things people working on it is very fragile, because they basically go from limited data and then they try to live it out in the world, and it usually doesn't work so well. But scalability, as they talked about in crypto, that is really a fascinating topic, because it really is more about, like, for example, yeah, you can have people get tokens and they can get so-called value, but that doesn't mean that they're going to use it in a competent way. So that's something also that people usually don't think about. They think, for example, that as long as you pay people, they are going to take that value and then they can be competent in the world. But it's not really how I think it's going to work out. Because humans are way more complex than that. So, for example, we had this in the early 2000s with a lot of projects that was supposed to be internet. Well, the next thing. You had a boom there, and the reason why you have these .com booms and all that is because the real so-called value wasn't there, or what you can say in other words is people had a lot of value, or they got in a lot of value, but they didn't have the competence. They didn't have the competence to become more efficient in life at getting things done. And getting things done is something that probably should be focused on way more than what it is right now. Okay, so getting things done and becoming more competent. But then it also is that aspect of what is worth spending energy on. What is worth investing into. And I really think that is going to be human infrastructure. So investing in human beings eventually. Here in the beginning, I think that a lot of people are looking at it as, what kind of projects, what kind of tokens can we invest in? But I think eventually it's gonna be, when the tech is so good, it's gonna be more as, okay, we can have the best tech, but if there hasn't been energy and resources invested in building up human beings, then it doesn't really matter what tech you're running on. Because even right now, people are not really using technology in the fullest way that they can use, even when they have access to it. We see this also with crypto. So we can see that there's more stuff going into stuff than just giving people some token, right? And this is also why I believe a lot in YouTube, because there is more obvious here that real human beings are investing energy and resource into into doing something, so you can actually see a human being that's doing something. And that is way harder to measure than in terms of what is value, what is not value, and all of this. But it's gonna be interesting how a lot of stuff is just gonna peak, because, and this is something that I realized last year also, that when you have something that's super successful, even if you do make a lot of value, like there's no if you haven't built up competency in humans in scalable systems, then yeah, you can have a lot of value, but nobody really cares. So it's interesting to consider how scalability is not just about the tech. It is about how do you scale intelligence. And humans, they are intelligence, but they're many times pretending they're not intelligence. So it's gonna take a long time, and just really. Here's also the other thing about the how with the internet, everything is changing in terms of where a person's identity is structured, where now they have to take in not just a small-minded identity, but now they have to take in the whole sort of world, everyone that's sort of connected to the internet. And that is really a new thing. That's really a new thing, because now you're dealing in super many languages, and people having different life experiences. That's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Human beings. It's an interesting thing. But they are going to reduce the energy spend. For example, with cars, with how usually we have centralized energy right now, how it is, usually most people do not make their own sort of energy. They don't have, like, the cost of solar is still pretty expensive, but sort of going down. But that is also an infrastructure that's going to reduce the energy spend. And what I'm really trying to get at is that internet may just be, when it's super efficient or efficient, that it just is voice. Like if you told most people that they can sort of do most things with their voice, I do believe that way less people would sit on internet. Basically, it would just be. Yeah, it would just expand the borders of ignorance. And that's fascinating. Yeah, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Maybe a little bit all over the place. But it's quite cool. It's quite cool also when you keep a track record of stuff. You can sort of see patterns and stuff. Yeah. Have a great day, YouTube Steam Blockchain.